You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel.
From Kent County Council on the 1st of January 2013. This was after it was closed down along with 18 other youth centres in Kent, with all the staff volunteering. The centre is now successfully been running for the past 3.5 years. We started with Swale Borough Council registering the youth centre building as a community asset on the 1st of March. This meant the building can only be used for community use, which really protected the building. On the 22nd of October, the Charity Commission registered Sheerness Youth as a charitable incorporated organisation. We had to slightly change our charitable status, and this allowed us to purchase and own buildings. And on the 21st December, Sheerness Youth purchased the youth centre from Kent County Council. Quite a big event for us. Kent KCC purchased the redundant Methodist Church on the corner of Merrick Road, the Broadway Sheerness, on the 20th of December 1959. They paid £2,000 for it and converted it into a youth club known as the Sheerness County Youth Club. The centre was officially opened in June 1960 and run by Kent County Council for 52 years, when it was then closed under the cuts to the Kent Youth Service. Sheerness Youth purchased the centre 55 years later, almost to the day when KCC had purchased the centre, which is quite interesting. At our AGM this year, on the 30th of June, I had the privilege to unveil a plaque in my name to celebrate the purchasing of the centre. Considering how many centres have been closed down in the country, there's very few that were able to survive the cuts. So it was a very proud moment for me and everybody. We was joined by the Mayor of Swale and many guests who all played a part in helping the trustees and myself to achieve this historic situation. So it was quite a nice event, you know.
What do you think is the future of youth work in the country, Ray?
Well, at the moment, at present, it's not looking good. I have to say that over the years, for two reasons, I don't normally comment about governments and what they've done. And there's two reasons for that. Is one, being a youth worker, it's always a good principle. You don't discuss politics with young people. You don't show your views. You just privately do whatever you want to do in terms of your political beliefs. Because otherwise you would influence the young people you work with. So we never talk politics, but it's very difficult these days. If as soon as you start talking about what governments have done, then it technically becomes political, I suppose. And the other reason is if you work for an authority like Kent County Council, then you have a duty of loyalty to the people you work with. However, I'm not particularly knocking anyone on this particular show, but what I am saying is that clearly they are now trying to cover a 0 to 25 on less money, mainly by targeting only children and young people who have issues. We have continued with the principles of the 1960 Albemarle Report, which was set up to run youth services in this country through local authorities. And just to give you an example, we have got a constitution that represents exactly what the youth service originally stood for. And let me read that to you. It's not very long, but this is the objectives. To help young people, especially but not exclusively, through leisure activities so as to develop their physical, mental and spiritual capacity, that they may grow into full, mature and individual members of society. Very simple. It's all the things that we're about. The spiritual does not necessarily mean a religion. It means their well-being, which is what we talk about these days. Rather than spiritual, we talk about well-being. We work with 12 to 19-year-olds, and we target that age group, which are going through adolescence. And this is what people forget. As we well know, this is a mental condition that virtually everyone experiences in their youth. Whether you remember or not, some people have a bad experience, some people don't. But it's a time when young people are trying to establish their identity, gain confidence, and it's a change of life moving from a child to an adult. So through leisure activities, we work on personal development and social education and provide support advice to young people going through adolescence. If we don't have a youth service, we will see an increase in mental illness. And only 3 years on from the closure of youth centres throughout the country, we are told there is an increase in mental ill issues with young people. Now, this wouldn't be solely to do with the youth service because far more young people around than actually go. But there's no question about it. If you look, for example, of how many youth centres are closed, and there could be anything up to 1,000 or more, each with about 50 to 60 young people, say, you're talking about probably 250,000 young people that are no longer going to youth centres. So where are they? What are they doing? And who is supporting them through this very difficult time they have? And then people turn around and say there's mental illness. Well, it may not be mental illness. It may simply, with teenagers, be adolescence. By closing the preventive services like youth centres and targeted on the numbers of young people that have got personal issues, it does pose the question, is there any real saving? Because sometimes if there's more issues come up because there's no youth centre, then the services have to deal with those issues could become more expensive than running a youth centre. So I'm pleased we have managed to save the youth centre, and now we are independent, we can pursue an objective. So sheppey may not experience some of the more severe problems that could develop in other areas in the country. And I know that whoever works with young people anywhere in the country, including Kent, always do their best for young people. But I think that preventative work is far better than targeting the problem after the event. And that is what we're going to be about. That's what we're going to do on sheppey. We're going to try and prevent some of the problems by giving young people a good youth centre.
So, Ray, how do you plan to finance the centre?
Well, the first point I want to make is that we are situated in Sheerness. Now, we have members, young people come from all over the island, but obviously the largest percentage of young people will come from Sheerness East or Sheerness West. Now, Sheerness West is, I believe, still stated the second most deprived area in Kent, and the first being Thanet, which has still got a county youth centre, of course, run by the Kent County Council. So as a voluntary group now, as an independent centre, we have the job of trying to cater for young people from Sheerness West, and therefore we have to keep the prices very, very cheap. There's no point in trying to charge people too much money, they won't come in. And so part of our financing has to be built in, that we are going to actually take the main amount of money from charities and from money raising. Now, we need to raise $12,000 a year for running costs. I might tell you that compared with what it would normally cost, we've got that down quite a lot. We need a further 3, maybe 5 for equipment and activities, depending on what we decide to do in a year. And over the next 3 years, we need an estimated $25,000 for repairs and renovation. Some of that is not urgent, but eventually we've got an urgent situation with the roof at the moment at the back of the club, which we have ivy growing over, so we will have to get that dealt with. Now, we plan to raise the money several ways. We have collection boxes in Sheerness town shops and pubs, which bring in a little bit of money for us, which we are very grateful for people who put their pennies and coins into those boxes. And I might say some people are generous enough to put £1 in there, which helps us a lot. Of course, I'll be writing for bids for funding to many charities. And at that point, I would like to say that a big thank you to the Danny Boy Trust for their recent £2,000 grant that will fund 4 projects in the club. Most generous of them. They helped us when we first started, and they've very kindly helped us again. And to actually cover 4 different projects has really been a great help. So many thanks to them. Good organisation, doing a lot of good work. We've just recently been chosen as one of 3 charities by the Minster Co-op shop. So I don't know a lot about this. I popped in there tonight and got a leaflet, and apparently that if customers go in there, there's 3 charities on the door. If you pick our charity, we will get 1% of the profits of that shop, or indeed 1% of what you spend. I'm not quite sure which way it works, but it's still money coming in. So if you shop at Minster Co-op and you like the idea of us, you might like to tell them that you'd like your money to go to that. I believe there's also, if you sign up, you get 5% for yourself as well. So it's in benefit for the customers. Then we have donations from people in Sheerness. I was stopped in Sheerness High Street by an old friend who gave me £10, and he said, "It's not much, Ray, but it will help." Well, Peter, if you're listening tonight, let me tell you that a donation of £10 from an individual is very helpful. If I got £10 from every working person on Sheppey, it would fund the centre for 8 years and cover all the repairs. So although people think that they're only giving a little amount, every penny does help, and we will do that. I'm hoping that we will be able to survive okay. Of course, my main concern is that I need to make sure the club will run many years after I'm around, and so I'm giving it the biggest kickstart I can and seeing what funds we can get into our account so that I can guarantee a service for the next 20 years.
We are at the moment talking to Ray from the Sheerness County Youth Centre right here in the studio at BRFM in Minster. And Ray, do you have enough volunteers to run the centre?
Well, I have a very good staff team and of qualified youth workers, and I think everyone knows that when we finally were closed down and we decided under Sheerness Youth we carry on, the hands went up of all my team, says, yeah, we'll carry on for nothing, which was marvellous, and I will always be grateful to them for doing that and continue to help me run the centre. One of the reasons we can run so cheap is no one gets paid anymore. But we do need more volunteers to cover the cafe and to help with maintenance, and in some cases supervision, like on disco night. So we're not necessarily looking for qualified youth workers. I mean, I'm very fortunate that just recently a full-time qualified youth worker that left the youth service a couple of years ago, that lives in Thanet, likes what we do so much, comes up once a week and gives his services to us, which is amazing, coming all the way from Ramsgate to Sheerness for a 2.5-hour session. But it's because he enjoys the work we do and believes in what we're about. And so, you know, of course, we would like a few more people that say they would like to do youth work, and we can train them. But there are other jobs to be done. They don't require so much pressure. They're quite easily done, looking after the cafe. I've got one new volunteer coming along to do that, and I might need a couple more. And there's always maintenance jobs and other things, and general supervision of young people. If, of course, you're going to work with young people, we need to do what I commonly call the police check. It's got the new lab and a deep police check that's around today. That is just to make sure, for security reasons, that we're picking the right people. If you're not working with young people, we don't need to go through that procedure. We can just take people on to help around the club outside of youth club hours. We've got leaflets out at the moment of the Gateway, Tesco's, the Leisure Centre, Sheppey College, Giggs Cafe, and I believe we've got a fish shop along the Broadway as well that's taken some. So there's leaflets there you can pick up, have a look, see the range of things we need and fill that in, and don't feel obliged that you'll commit yourself. Come along, have a chat. We will tell you if we think we could use your services and that you think you could do the job, and as it's voluntary, it's up to you to decide how many hours you'd like to give and have a test run. We do have a problem with things like the ivy growing over the back of the centre, which I said earlier on, and that's a major problem. And we've had the Island Partnership spend 2 days cutting it back at ground level. We had a member of staff who also cut some from the roof, and just recently I had a team of volunteers from Friends to Sheppey who came along in force. I think there was about 9 or 10 of them, and spent a whole Sunday clearing the alleyways for us and cutting back more of the ivy. So I would like to thank all those volunteers and organisations that have at least made an attempt to start on what is going to be a very difficult job, and probably will have to get island contractors to come and remove the final roof full of ivy and maybe replace some of the tiles. We want to try and get that done as soon as possible, because eventually, as you know, with ivy it will get under the slates, and before you know it, I'll have a leaky roof. But it's incredible how it's got out of hand, and it's almost like trees growing on top of the roof. So if there's anybody listening that could give us a quote for doing that, I think that's a task they could do, then I would appreciate that, and then I'll write for a bid and perhaps get some money to have a contractor come and do that bit of work for us.
If a young person would like to attend the centre, what can they expect?
Well, this is probably the most interesting bit. I've been talking about all the bits and pieces for running the club and the youth service and the future and what have you. But this is what we're about, of course. The Sheerness County Youth Centre is open to young people 12 to 17. Providing you become a member before you're 17, you can stay until you're 19. Membership is free, but you will pay 50 pence per night entrance fee and £1 on Club TARDIS Friday nights. The centre is open every Tuesday and Wednesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. and fortnightly on a Friday, Club TARDIS Disco from 7 to 9:30. I might add here, which I haven't got in my notes, which I always forget, is that when it comes to half term or school holidays, then apart from the TARDIS Disco, which still remains the same, the Tuesdays and Wednesdays are always free. So there's no admission charge during holiday time. The activity programme consists of a number of experiences that will be challenging, exciting and rewarding. We call them experiences because they are truly experiences. We've got 2 table tennis tables and 2 pool tables. The 2 table tennis are brand new. The 2 pool tables have just been recovered, and we do a weekly competition. So if you come on a Tuesday night, you can take part in the ratings, or you can just play on the tables any other time. They're always available. We have an arts and crafts and design on every Tuesday. This is quite interesting because I never ever thought that arts and crafts would take off so well in a youth centre. And I think the reason it's so successful is because although we may have a theme, our artwork has a theme, you can come along and say, right, I don't want to do that. Can I do some drawing? Can I do some painting? Can I make this? Can I make that? And so it's a very open session. And unlike maybe at school, which you have to follow a pattern, you can literally do whatever art you want, providing we've got the equipment. We've got 4 computers, so you can go on there into our very good computers, fully internet. And we've got an Xbox with mainly FIFA on, which people play in a little room, which a couple of people go and do that. We've got our own internal radio station. I won't say it's as good as the radio station at the moment because it's only internal, but nevertheless it's got all the things you need to learn to do radio work, and we produce programs for the club which are then put out on CDs and then played the rest of the week for the youth club. We've had an interesting thing we started last year, which is free food tasting every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. And what we do, we provide tasters of round the world food, give young people the chance to try things they've never tried before, and also some tips on healthy eating, which is probably quite important these days. And incidentally, one of the projects that the Danny Boy Trust funded is this project. We did raise the money to start with, and then we're running out of money because we're literally giving the food away, of course. We're not charging for it. And they've kindly helped us, so they're going to fund it for a year to help these young people. An interesting thing also is that because young people usually like a bit more than a taster, we're now finding we have to increase the amount of food so that they can almost get a meal out of a Wednesday night. We then have dance and stage mime. Now, stage mime is now called nationally lip sync. Started by the Americans not so long ago, but in fact started at the Sheerness County Youth Centre some 40 years ago. And I'm sure there are some people out there listening tonight that will say, yes, I've been on the county stage miming to Elton John or Slade or Queen or whatever. Very popular activity, and you can see why by watching the lip sync program on telly. And we're going to continue that because we've got a makeup room, we've got costumes, we've got everything to make it real. We've then got a television and video studio. That's been very successful, but it's now going through a change to digital television. So a little while we're building new television sets. Abacus Horizons has put some money into that. It's taken us a long time to develop the sets because we're building a new set. We've got darts, table football. We've got a very good cafe selling hot drinks, cold drinks, cans, bottles, drinks, and a wide range of sweets and crisps. With the seated area catering for 16 young people. We've got a lounge where young people sit. There's 10 places there for young people to sit. We have our own members committee for young people who like to help in the running of the centre. And we've got little things like if you've got a bike, you can hire a bike lock for nothing. It doesn't cost you anything, just so you can lock up your bike. If you've just been playing table tennis and you feel a little bit sweaty, we've got deodorant and antiperspirants on hand if you want those. And apart from a range of activities to suit everyone's taste, it is a friendly, warm centre, and every young person is treated as an individual. Some young people have almost classed it as being like a family, because although young people come from different backgrounds, different parts of the island, eventually they get to know the group that come to the club. It's not cliquey, we've got lots of individuals and we don't have groups, they're all coming into, but it's a very family atmosphere. From the outside, of course, the centre still looks like a small church, but inside as a large, attractive, modern youth centre. And if anybody's never been in the Sheerness County Youth Centre, you really ought to have a look. And I don't mind if someone phones me up. It can be parents, it can be just members of the public or young people, and say, can we have a look round? And I will certainly give you a guided tour. Just one visit and you will see what I mean. Your first visit on a Tuesday or Wednesday will always be free. So when you arrive, if you're a young person and you come there for the first time, you get your first night free.
Before you go, I was just hoping you could go over any of those useful contact details. Of course, anything else you want to refresh our listeners on?
Yes, thanks very much, Daniel. Well, I'd like to give just the details out to people because I'm sure some of the listeners will know young people that may want to come to the youth centre or know people who may want to help or donate to the centre. The Sheerness County Youth Centre is on the corner of Merrick Road and Broadway Sheerness. I have to say Broadway because if I say the Broadway, that's Minster. So it's Broadway Sheerness, ME12 1TP. You can phone the centre, but I recommend you only do that the nights we are open, which is the Tuesday and Wednesday nights. We are 01795 66 2808. The reason we don't have an answer phone is unfortunately somebody mistakenly put our number on Swale Borough Council's information, and we get a lot of calls for Swale Borough Council, and if I leave the answer phone on, people think they've informed Swale Borough Council of something, and they haven't, of course, because it's only come to us and it would be too expensive to phone back. So at the moment, until we get that sorted out, we can only take calls in the evening on Tuesdays and Wednesdays on 01795 66 2808. Now we are on Facebook. You can find us by typing in Sheerness County Youth Centre, and there is another site on there which is Sheerness County Youth Centre Days Gone By, and that will give you some of the old members and some of the old photographs from Stage Mime Camp and what have you, if you want to look summer camps that we run. We've got an email which you can get to me from, and that is sheerness.youth@live.co.uk. And if anyone wishes to make a donation, checks should be made out to Sheerness Youth, not the Sheerness County Club, because Sheerness Youth is the charity that runs the club, and that's the one that's got an account. So most appreciated if anybody would like to help us financially, or if you want to come along and have a look and see what we're doing, give us an email, give us a phone call, and we'll arrange a visit. Thank you for listening to me tonight. It's been great to be on the show, Daniel. Thank you.
No, Ray, thank you very much for coming along as always. That is Ray from the Sheerness County Youth Centre right here at BRFM on the Monday Night Community Show.